Vinland Saga Season 1 was a brutal exploration about the fierce and unforgiving life of war, and what better way to represent that than the egomaniac world of Vikings, where death in battle is an honour and what all men should strive towards to be accepted in halvallar, the Viking heaven. It was ferociously entertaining, and some might say even glorifies the act of war. But it was always the intention of Vinland Saga creator Makoto Yukimura to tell the opposite of the glorification and highlight the inner demons one has to face when faced up against a world that has only shown them death and victory through those murders of innocent lives. Where one's value is determined by how many dead bodies they can stack up so that the winner can climb on those who are too weak to defend themselves and reach the gods and shake their hands personally. And no one can underestimate that Vinland Saga Season 1's impact meant that the excitement for Season 2 was at a fever pitch. People were excited by the continuation of Thorfinn's journey and how there would be bigger wars and bigger battles on the horizon. But that's not what we got. Instead, we have 24 episodes of Thorfinn living his quiet life on a farm as a slave. Really? After the vicious and brutal nature of Season 1, we have to endure Thorfinn trying to grow wheat. This was unexpected, took me by surprise, but I absolutely loved it. It wasn't battles that were fought with swords. Season 2 was about a battle with oneself. To fight inner demons of regret and guilt, and from that to become a new and better person that can look at themselves and smile because they didn't see a murderer but someone who tried to live a good life.
俺は今までに大勢の人たちをこの手で殺してしまった。もうこれっきりだ。はもう二度と人を傷つけない。生まれ変わるんだ。生まれ変わって償いをしなくちゃ。
And that is a beautiful sentiment, because to look deep within is hard as it is. We all have those demons that control aspects of our lives. Those demons can be from alcohol, drug, mental or physical abuse, in which we become tortured by every action we take because we cannot let go of the past mistakes we have made, so the fear of repeating those moments or even just remembering them brings us closer to our own demise. We close off from the world, and just by sheer exhaustion from the constant battles we face inwards, we accept the world is shit, so we are allowed to be shipped back to the world, which creates a facade that everyone is against us and they all want us to fail. All these thoughts that form into dark clouds which are hard to get rid of forces us to retreat further in our ability to move forward, to accept the faults of our lives and to move past them, because we've cultivated a narrative that we are not allowed to heal. Healing is only for those who deserve that luxury. We must suffer because that is our path that we now live, and in the worst scenarios we walk that path alone, never allowing anyone to get close to us again. It's a point in a life that seems like all is now lost, where there are no options, so there's only acceptance. To suffer in silence. To tell everyone you are doing fine and smile when you have to, but deep down it is a lie, because the burden of this guilt that weighs so heavy on your shoulders is something that you don't want other people to experience, because the world is against you, so why let the world in and help? And it is that battle that Thorfinn must face. He accepts his life as a slave and condemns his future to this path he is now walking, suffering every day and wasting his life away because he has given up on himself. The failures that he believes that led him here means that he can no longer escape the life that has been carved out for him. Banished to this world of slavery by King Canute after attacking him because of a rage that was deep and full of fiery betrayal. A betrayal by the man who murdered his father, that he could not avenge his father's death, as that man Thorkel lays dead motionless on the floor. All this pent-up rage he has been mustering and boiling within can no longer be rewarded by killing the man that killed his father, and so he does not know how to continue on with his life. Up to that point of Thorkel's death, Thorfinn had one mission in his life, and that was to kill him. That was what Thorfinn only thought about, and would not let anything get past him to achieve that goal. But what happens to the path that he has created? A path that he has never deviated from, where he can no longer walk down it. Thorfinn found meaning in a life by his ferocious appetite in killing Thorkel, and in doing so became a hateful killer of innocent lives. But with that goal gone, his path has crumbled, and instead of building a new passageway, he accepted death in just living as a slave.
なんで死ぬのを怖がらなくちゃいけないんですか?
resigned to this life of sacrificing each day he has on a farm where he will never escape. The guilt of what he had done in his previous life, from the age of 6 killing the innocent that could not protect himself, forced Thorfinn to crumble into a shell where he could not escape. Every night he would remember what he did he wants to forget, the faces and screams of those that were living their normal life. A life that Thorfinn once wished he had, but instead of seeing hope in those lives, he saw them as cattle, pieces of meat to be sliced as they were as unworthy to him as the cows that get slaughtered for food. To him, he no longer saw life as valuable, but instead of training to get better at killing so he can finally take down Thorkill. Forgetting that the people he killed were once like him, who had families and children and friends, now all burned to a crisp. And it is those screams that haunt him during the night as he echoes those he killed through his own night terror screaming, which is him not allowing himself to accept the life he had once lived and to move forward from that. What he did is an act that can never be forgiven, and because Thorfinn understood that, he no longer found forgiveness himself, and it is why he lost all hope in life, because to him, why should he live a normal life when he took the basic human right away from so many people? What he did was atrocious, and even though he could never apologise to those who died at the point of his blade, Thorfinn is allowed to forgive himself. But that is difficult when the guilt weighs on your soul so much and is so heavy that even the slightest step forward to forgiveness becomes the biggest and most difficult step, which is always the case with the first action. To just take measures is big and must take a lot of looking inwards to accept that the new path you want to create is the right one, and because of the past he built, he will always be followed by the countless dead bodies that lay behind him, and this means Thorfinn's first step is the acceptance that he cannot change what he has done. The acceptance must be that he acknowledges the crime he has committed and to accept that he will forever hold this guilt for eternity. And this was something that Thorfinn could not do because he saw no hope in this cruel world. So why be happy in this world that celebrates murders of the innocent? Why smile when this world celebrates blood being spilled? Why laugh when this world constantly laughs at the weak?
生きてると何かいいことはありますか?
Through the eyes of Thorfinn, this world, which has been shaped by death and pillaging the peaceful people, is not worth his time to build a new future, because he knows at some point that future will burn down like all the futures he took away from so many people. A cycle of death and hurt repeating itself. Because of that tiring lifestyle, Thorfinn loses all emotions. Barely speaking, he lives a life of solitude at the farm. Day by day passes and he lets those higher up bully him and accepts the shit life that he now lives. At this point in his life, he has already accepted death and even welcomes it, because this will allow him to forget his past forever.
なんで死ぬのを怖がらなくちゃいけないんですか?
But it isn't about forgetting his past that will heal him. It's all about the acceptance of his actions and through that to keep moving forward, because there is a life where there can be peace, and those that cannot defend themselves have no need to even try and pick up a sword and use it, because in this world violence is not the key to power or success. Violence is not the first, second or even last option, but with speaking and having discussions to resolve issues. A world that is safe and where people can live a full life. A world where there are no enemies. But for Thorfinn, it's a world that he has forgotten about. A distant memory that his father told him, a land called Vinland, away from the wars and battles, uncorrupted by any government. This land was peace itself that no one has touched yet, and on this land people can live freely and peacefully. However, Thorfinn is now far from that idea, and that dream of going there will always be a dream, as his life is chained to this farm as a slave. But then walks in Einar, a new slave to work alongside him, and at first their relationship was rocky as Thorfinn never spoke to him and kept to himself, but Einar is someone that dreams of leaving this farm and to live his life. A life that was brutally and forcefully taken away from him as Vikings came to his hometown and killed and pillaged everything, leaving him to lose his mother and sister. Einar has to deal with the regret that he was never strong enough to protect the people he loved, but even though he has been through that atrocity, he has hope of escaping being a slave. Because he has a promise to his mother, and that is to continue to live, to not allow his freedom to be taken or be controlled by another person. That strong message from her is what drives Einar in his time of sadness. It is what guides him on his new path that he was forced to take, and through that guidance he produces an aura of positivity and motivation to work as hard as he can on this farm. To get his freedom, all he has to do is farm land to grow wheat, which he can sell to pay for his debt. A sliver of hope that he grasps with both hands, and though the possibility to farm wheat in the time frame he was given himself is near to sheer impossible, Einar is a believer, and through his hope and optimism, Thorfinn slowly comes back to existence. Thorfinn finds meaning again, and that is to help Einar to grow wheat. There, Thorfinn has a new path that has given him some peace of mind, because now he has a goal that he can strive towards. Instead of taking away life, he is growing life. This becomes a redemption for him. This is proper work that he can be proud of, and that in a sense is a form of healing he needed. Once alone, waiting for death to knock on his door, but instead of death behind those doors, it was Einar. He allowed someone into his life, and because of that he no longer has to fight those demons that have tormented him to slowly fade away. Not into obscurity, but to acceptance. Thorfinn can now see a new life for himself, one where he can start to be proud of it. A life that his father only wished for his son to have, which is peace. This was an idea that Thorfinn could not fathom at the start of Season 1. This little child that saw war and battle as a noble act and was so eager to go into it, he followed his father to the battlefield where he saw him die to protect him. That beautiful parallel of Thorfinn now understanding his father's views is powerful to watch as it comes full circle, because he understands the pain his father went through all his life as he was a warrior famous for his fighting power. But even a strong person like him had the weight of guilt on his shoulders and always tried to protect his family from that brutal side of life, shown by his willingness to sacrifice sheep for a runaway slave in order to avoid unnecessary conflict.
3頭やる。俺が買おう。
In the eyes of Thorfinn, that was weak, but now, years later, experienced in life, he finally understood his father for the hero he was, not on the battlefield, but because of his noble and loving heart. And so Thorfinn sees how he can change into a kind person just like his father and like his new friend that he calls a brother, Einar. Both of them showed him that you can change your outlook in life. But a character that showed Thorfinn's strength in forgiveness is that of Arnheid. Arnheid's only crime she committed was loving someone, and for that she was brutally beaten by the farm owner Ketil, someone who loves Arnheid and she loves him. He found peace within her arms to the point that he felt comfortable being vulnerable as she held him dearly. But that love which would have brought a child into this world was shattered, and the full rage of betrayal by Arnheid's decision to run away with her husband was seen only as a crime in his eyes, and with a wooden plank she was beaten so viciously it left a baby in her stomach to die and brought her close to the end. But even though that atrocity befallen her, she never hated Ketil and still wanted to bring his child into such a cruel world, in which that child's father would beat the mother to the point of death. But there was hope around her, especially in the eyes of Einar, that she would survive that brutish attack. However, as the carriage she was taken on was slowly leaving the battlefield, her battle with life was running its course, and with that sense she began to say her final goodbyes to those that brought her genuine peace in a time of anguish. To convince her that life was still worth living, those around her began to preach about the future. However, nothing would help, and as Thorfinn stayed silent and Arnheid took her final breath, it was at that moment that he would remember his father speak about the land called Vinland.
遥かな西。大海の向こうにヴィンランドという名の土地がある。
Indirectly, Arnheid helped Thorfinn to come full circle and to guide him on his new path. A new goal that he will strive towards, and that is to make sure no one dies without hope anymore like Arnheid. That people won't die to just escape the hell they live in, but live longer because life would be worth living.
生きてると何かいいことありますか?
It is at that point that Thorfinn confronts King Canute and explains everything that has been going on since he was exiled all those years ago, and how he saw the king as a fool back then because of his noble dream of peace, but now his pursuit for land and his drive for more power makes him an even bigger fool. And because of that, wherever the king goes, Thorfinn will make sure that peace will follow him to clean up his destructive mess, because that's what makes life beautiful, not power, but peace.
王の力が届かない場所にお前とは違うやり方で平和な国を作るよ。
Thorfinn's beliefs are cemented in Stoicism, and because of Thorfinn, a lot of people who have watched Vinland Saga Season 2 try to follow his path. However, there is a mixed view on what Stoicism actually is about. Stoicism is not about refusing to feel any emotions, be it sadness or anger. It is understanding why you might be feeling sad instead of ignoring that feeling to keep on moving. That doesn't get you anywhere, because all you are doing is ignoring those emotions that will eventually burst out in an unhealthy way. You have to acknowledge the pain before you can heal it.
俺は今までに大勢の人たちをこの手で殺してしまった。
Thorfinn became someone that lost all emotions, which was dragging him down, but once he acknowledged his mistakes and pain, then he could heal properly, allowing him to clear his mind and find a more healthy path to walk on. And that is the beautiful story of Vinland Saga and Thorfinn's arc. We all have enemies, but we only have one enemy, and that is ourselves. You don't need to battle against anyone but yourself. You don't need to compete against anyone but yourself. And once you start to accept that and you strive to be better than the person you were yesterday, then that person will be a distant memory that will be looked back upon no longer as an enemy but seen as progression, because once you defeat your inner demons, then you can truly say, I have no enemies.